All right, so it's official, y'all. Here we are. Um, I just felt inspired to do this particular presentation this evening. Um, the baseline and the post for a greater part of the population has been on the Bible scriptures, primarily in part due to Kanye West's latest, um, I don't want to call them antics, but uh, just what he has decided to embark on in his journey, in his spiritual journey. And recently, he visited um, Joel Osteen, very, very popular preacher. They call him a prosperity preacher. He visited his church um, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe, and it was highly controversial. It was a lot of memes that went around, and people had a lot of commentary about it. And so, hold on, y'all. Hold on one second. All right. And so it was highly controversial, and people had a lot of commentary about it, on, Facebook, Twitter, Universe, Instagram, wherever it was a conversation to be had socially, people were having dialogue about it. And so I was on Twitter, uh, had to be late last week, and I came across some tweets in relationship to this subject, and I just felt the need to lend my expertise to the subject matter because a lot of people have a lot of opinions, and that's great. But what I like to do is get down into the nuts and bolts. Anybody that may be new here, my name is Minister Jew. You maybe caught this on Twitter. You're like, okay, let me check this guy out, see what he's talking about. I got a bunch of videos on YouTube that I did many years ago. Black Magic 363 is the channel. I just started really posting content to my own channel maybe about a month or two ago. But I got some videos over there that talk about, meditation, visualization, quantum physics, quantum consciousness, that type of thing. And for those who are here who may be very familiar with the work that I do, I even probably got some of my members on the line because I forwarded the link to them tonight as well to participate. We've had vast success utilizing these principles. Over $6 million in collective testimonials in 4 short years. We've had healing stories of all sorts. And I don't really hold myself out to be a preacher or a pastor in the sense. My partner gave me the handle Minister Jew because, I was into reading into reading spiritual texts, and people have been calling me Jew since I was a teenager. So, my partner Amp just called me Minister Jew, and it just stuck. But I'm more of a teacher, more so than a preacher. And you guys can find that out this evening. And so what I want to do is be able to present some facts to you guys about the subject matter, and then you can formulate your own opinion once you have a different level of understanding and interpretation dropped into your consciousness so that you can decide on what you think this whole prosperity gospel is really all about. All right. So first up, let's just look at the definition, right? Prosperity theology. Prosperity theology, sometimes referred to as the prosperity gospel, the health and wealth gospel or gospel of success or seed faith is a controversial religious belief among some Protestant Christians who hold the financial blessing and physical well-being are always the will of God for them, and that faith, positive speech, and donations to religious causes will increase one's material wealth. Prosperity theology views the Bible as a contract between God and humans. If humans have faith in God, He will deliver security and prosperity. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, right? This is the take from the population about what the prosperity theology or gospel is about. So we're talking about money, we're talking about health, we're talking about success in general, and then it gets into some of the things like positive speech, faith, And donation is how you activate this prosperity gospel for yourself. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to see, is all of this true? Is some of it true? Or is none of it true? Is it all true, none of it, or something somewhere in between? Now, I just want to give you guys a definition. We're moving on to the third slide of prosperity as it's defined in just regular language. It's a successful, flourishing, or thriving condition, especially in financial respects and good fortune. Now, clearly we see here the word especially, meaning it's just not dealing with finances, even though it especially deals with finances, meaning there's other things that you can thrive in and flourish in that denotes prosperity. You can have a prosperous marriage. You can have a happy marriage. You can have your health can be top of the line. It's a bunch of things that you can be flourishing in and be very successful in, speaking. I mean, whatever it may be, but especially finances. We just want to be clear on definitions of what's actually going on here, and maybe some things have been bent. Maybe some things have been exaggerated, but let's just look at the word prosperity on its face so that we can really have a thorough understanding of what they are indicating inside of the prosperity gospel. So is it all about money? Absolutely not. But the preachings and the teachings are centered around the financial aspects of prosperity. And so this is where we're getting a lot of the feedback from the population as to how they feel about the prosperity gospel, because you have multiple ministers, pastors, preachers, etc., who they feel are fleecing and finessing their audience and giving those donations that they mentioned to the church, quote unquote, to God, that you will receive some type of benefit in return. This is where people are having an issue with the prosperity gospel. And so I'm going to let you guys look at some of the tweets here that I was interacting with maybe 5 or 6 days ago here. These are what you consider to be famous people: Mike Freeman, Torrey Smith. I think these gentlemen are football players, if I'm not mistaken. Wide receiver. I think wide receivers on both teams. But anyway, let's look at what Mike Freeman says about this. He says, "This is wow. None of this SHIT is in the Bible." Right? And this is a video of Joel Osteen basically talking about the prosperity gospel, where he's like, hey, if my kids come up here bummy and not looking nice, they're a reflection of me, and God wants you to prosper. And so these people are like, huh? Are you talking down about poor people? This is the reaction. And we're going to get into the psychology of why people don't like people with money in this presentation. We're going to get into it, and you're going to have to face yourself to really find out, okay, what's really going on in my psychology here. But let's look at this. Torrey Smith says, prosperity Christians disgust me, especially when they make millions of dollars off of other people. He is literally rich because some of those same people follow him. This is disrespectful and not biblical. This is trash. And he tagged them, Joel Osteen, right? So they both retweeted the same tweet from this gentleman named Drayton Jackson, okay? And what we're getting here is it's trash, it's bogus, and none of it is in the Bible, and it's disrespectful. This is the general take from what they're saying. They're saying this prosperity talk is nowhere in the Bible, right? And so I responded to one of the tweets. Here we are. Hip Hop Astrology is my handle. Our handle, my partner, No Bamboo. I said, the Bible is a figurative work of literature with psychological principles played out in allegory and stories. In multiple places, it mentions prosperity being a good thing, and in others, a challenge. It all depends on your state of consciousness. There's levels to this, and I hashtagged it Minister Jew, right? So, and excuse me if you're new here, also, I don't want to offend any of the Christian brothers and sisters who may be on the line tonight, who first time tuning in. You never know who's listening. You may be used to the traditional way of thinking about the Bible as if it's some form of secular literal history. But tonight what I want to do is give you is challenge you in a good way, not in a way to demean your understanding of what you may have been taught over the years, from repetition and tradition and grandma and auntie and mama who went to the church. I don't want to demean you in any way. I just want to challenge you to be open-minded, to listen to the dialogue tonight, see if it makes sense to you, and see if it works. Because anything that is professed should be able to be demonstrated, and if it's demonstrated, it should be able to have results. And when we get to the end of this call and webinar, you're going to see the results. I'm just not here to talk. I got receipts, plenty of them. And so for me to go into the whole thing about how it's allegorical and how it's psychological principles, that's a whole entire different webinar. I just want you to know that and keep that at the forefront of your mind as we're going through this dialogue tonight. So let's look at this. This is 1 Timothy 6:10, because what I don't want to do, what I don't like to do, is to use source material outside of the book unless I'm proving a psychological or neurological corresponding principle to the book. And we'll see that as we go along too. But for the traditional Bible people who say it's not in the Bible, because remember what these gentlemen said now, I want you guys, none of this shit is in the Bible. Excuse my language. For anybody that may be offended, I'm just reading somebody else's words, and this is disrespectful and this is not biblical, right? So now I'm going to tell you guys where this comes from, right? And we're gonna have to come to terms with this paradox, and then we'll really be able to find out what's going on in between the lines in these scriptures. Let's read this. This is King James Version, 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through many sorrows. So here's one of the mainstays that people go to when they want to talk bad about money or say money is the root of all evil. This is the actual scripture that they get it from. So we know that they're not lying. This is where they're getting their perception from. I'm just making a claim to show you where they're getting their perception from. We'll get into the veracity of it as we move forward in the presentation. The second one is Matthew 19:24, and it's in all the Gospels, but this is the one that I just chose because it's the first one that popped up. It says, and again, I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. This is the other passage that is consistently used to talk about people with money and how they're not going to heaven and how they're evil people and money is. These are the mainstays. These are the two. So obviously, and this comes from confirmation bias a lot of times, when people have a position, they tend to overlook other facts about the subject because those other facts intrude on their bias, and so they don't want to look at it logically to figure out what's going on here. Can two things be true at the same time? People have a hard time with understanding that principle. But see, in quantum physics, they teach you that two things can both be realities, even if both of these two things are holding separate facts. This is a fact inside of the world of quantum physics. I talk about this in my memberships, Quantum Imaging, Quantum Script, Jude Talks. We really get into the dynamic of the quantum dynamic, which is the root of what's going on in these scriptures, trying to connect you to the subtle principles of mind that form and manipulate everything that we call matter, right? But that's a whole other webinar. I don't want to get too top-heavy tonight. I just want to keep it where we at. So these are the two scriptures where people point to. So now, but let's look at this. This is Ecclesiastes 10:19. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry. But money answers everything. But wait a minute now. Let's go back. For the love of money is the root of evil. And it would be easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man. But in another portion of the Bible, it says, but you know what, though? Money answers all things. So which one is it? Huh? We're going to get to what's actually going on here. Another form of prosperity, literally, it says it literally. This is in Psalms 30:6. And in my prosperity, I said, I shall never be moved. So we got a direct linguistic link to the word, the prosperity gospel, and we see it right here in Psalm 30:6, where it clearly says, in my prosperity, I said, I shall never be moved. So you're not going to ever move me off my mark of this prosperity, me getting it, me talking about it, me being about it. You're never going to move me off of it. Now, we had some gentlemen on Twitter, some very famous people, and this is why you start to learn wisdom. It doesn't necessarily, how famous you are doesn't make you wise, right? Because clearly what's happening here is you have a parallel running that seems in opposition to one another, and they're saying that none of this is in Scripture, but we're clearly reading here tonight that money answers everything, and in my prosperity I said I should never be moved. Now, is it more, Minister Jew? Let's read Psalms 112:3. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever. This is the quote-unquote God, which is really your own consciousness via your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, when you learn how to operate the human technology of your body, i.e., the body is the temple of God, and it clearly says that in Scripture as well, right? When you learn how to activate the technology in your own church, i.e., your own temple, i.e., your own body, which means wherever you are standing is holy, because you are the holy sanctuary, right? It is wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever. So now we got God saying money answers all things. We've got, and I'm just speaking in the traditional terms, but I just stated what God is, right? And we're going to see as we read further, I'm going to give you more receipts. So wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever. So we got three passages where it's clearly talking about money and prosperity, and riches is a good thing. You should have it and endure it forever, right? So now, let's look. Let's continue to look. This is Genesis 13:2. We're going to watch a pattern unfold. Abraham was very rich. He owned many cattle, sheep, and goats, and had a lot of silver and gold. But it ain't in the Bible. Under prosperity, having prosperity and teaching prosperity is not in the Bible. But is it? I'm presenting to you literary facts here. This is Genesis 30:43. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy, with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. Very wealthy. Abraham was rich. Jacob was very wealthy. So, and King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. What is happening here, Jew? What? If you notice, all of the quote-unquote prophets always were rich and wealthy, because these were men of vision. And when you start to understand, they were characters, personified characters of vision. But this is you, this is me, anybody that's reading this and thinking that, oh, it's no more prophets in the world, because you're thinking this is literal. It was literally a person named Jacob. It was literally a person named Abraham. It was literally a person named King Solomon. Then your mind will go outside of your own being, and then you will attribute these things to somebody who allegedly lived 2,000, 3,000 years ago, not understanding that these are states of consciousness personified as characters in a book with psychological principles, so that when you read it, if you're wise enough, you'll be able to extract the principle and apply it in your consciousness to get the same result. That's the trick. But because people are stuck on it being literal, they just think, oh, man, Abraham had a lot of money, man. Jacob was wealthy, man. That's where they get stuck, right? And this one going to shock you. This is Luke 8:3. Joanna, whose husband, Chusa, was Herod's administrator, Susanna, and many other women, they provided financial support for Jesus and his disciples. Ooh. Now, this is how you know it's a story and an allegory. Just make sense of this. The same man who was making 5,000 loaves and fishes appear, the same man who was raising people from the dead, the same man who was performing exorcisms on people at graveyards, what does he need financial support for? Just make it make sense to me, Jew. What does a entity who can make things double, triple appear out of nowhere miraculously need your money, Susanna or Joanna or all of these other women? Huh? See, what they're trying to exhibit, and I'm a living proof of this. See, you're still in a physical body, right? You're not exempt. People think, they think, it's this beyond worldly spiritual. No. You're still in a physical body, right? And this is why I say, render unto things that are Caesar's. You still are going to have to participate in the drama called life, even though you have elevated your state to the level of Christ consciousness, which is a title. Jesus the Christ. Christ is a title. They think it's his full name. But whoever you are on the line, John the Christ, Elizabeth the Christ, Tanisha the Christ, Mira the Christ, Terrence the Christ, Naima the Christ. It's a title for a person who reaches a particular state of inner awareness that they navigate this place by using mentalism and emotion. So even though you reach that state, right, you still got to eat, right? And you use your will and your imagination to be able to forge these opportunities so that you always stay in a prosperous state and those around you, right? So moving forward, as I mentioned before, these are states of awareness. There's all of these characters, Rachel, Rebecca, Joshua, Isaac, Jacob, Esau. These are all of these names, Ishmael. These names, when you look these names up, they mean something. They have a meaning. And so if you're wise enough, you'll know that when you read the story, you'll take the baseline of what the name means to extract the wisdom from the story. How does the name relate to the story and the parable and the allegory that's being communicated to you through a particular chapter, through a particular verse? And what happens is everybody and anybody can fall into any one of these states. See, the state of poverty is a state of consciousness. Unfortunately, it is. The state of wealthy is a state of consciousness. See, you listen, I'm just going to be honest with y'all tonight. You can try to rid the world of hunger and poverty. Let me tell you something. That's an eternal state. It's going to be here. You know why? Because people come up in conditions and their mind gets conditioned in a certain way and pattern, right? And it preludes that type of experience. Do you know they're showing these studies in science now where these phobias get handed down for 14 generations? See? And if you're not privy to this type of information, you'll get stuck in these same cycles for another 14 years in the generation that become behind you and behind them and behind them. You see? So now there's many masks that people wear, right? And so what we have to learn is, how do we place ourselves in a state of consciousness that allows us to be secure and also allows us to be philanthropic enough where we can help other people who, and this is where the compassion thing comes in, it. They don't understand that it's about a mindset. It's easy to blame everybody else for all the conditions, right? You get lumped into this groupthink consciousness, right? And then it's their fault, or it's the government fault, or it's these people over here fault, or that's the trajectory that you go on and what you're projecting out because of the suggestions that are being made to you, right? And we're going to get into that as we continue to move forward. So Here's something that I got coming for the new year: quantum algorithms for success, 7 implementation steps for achieving goals using any spiritual system. Because it doesn't matter the system that you're using. These are principles that if you plug and play, it works no matter what you're using. Right? So in other words, what I'm trying to say is these scriptures act as algorithms to solve problems if you know how to break down the psychological ramifications around the character and the story. You'll get the answer of how you move in a state or move out of a state of consciousness, depending upon your level of awareness and ability to interpret. Okay? So we got these states, right? Because remember what it said up here. Right? They have erred from the face and pierced themselves through many sorrows. See, this is the state of consciousness that particular verse was talking about. These type of people. See, everybody who got money on evil, but it is some people who fall into that state once they acquire that type of wealth and that type of power where they abuse it. And then they err. They make error. And then they think, because, I got money, I can do whatever I want to do. I can disrespect people. I can abuse people. I can pay that person off. This is a particular state. But then you got other people who got, like Bezos. I just saw something the other day. He made like $100 million donation to some folks, right? So you got other people who have money, but they're not in this state. So in other words, all of those passages are correct. The only thing that matters is what state of consciousness you're in to fit that particular scripture. You see how two things can, and this is where people have a problem. Most people will read that and say, the Bible's a contradiction. One part is say money answers all things, and then the next verse say, money is the root of all evil. Well, which one is it? See, they lack wisdom. These are states of awareness because we can see it, and just all you got to do is look around you, and you'll see the paradox. You see people who got money who do very evil things. And then you'll look and you'll see people who got money who do very nice things. So they both work, right? Because like I said, it's an algorithm that's explaining a state to you can move in it or you can move out of it, depending upon where you're at in your life at the time. So now, how do we move into the state, Minister Jew? How do we move into a state of prosperity, right? Well, first you got to condition your mind, right? And you got to cleanse yourself of all of the ideas about money being negative, because that's not how you're going to use it. In your prosperity, you're going to always stand, right? So the studies show that subjective states of awareness, when consciously activated, motivate our behavior and our perceptions, right? This is Rossi, PhD, the psychobiology of gene expression. These are people who are studying the nature of subjective practices like visualization, meditation, and prayer, PhDs, MDs, in laboratories with EEG machines, right? Hundreds of subjects, ran tests run multiple times, right? And this is why I stated at the beginning, I'm more of a teacher than a preacher. So when people join my memberships, they're not paying me because I'm preaching to them. They're paying me because I spend my time studying this information and give it back to people so they can apply it in their lives. They're not coming over here saying, we're giving Minister Jew $48 for the church, or we're giving Minister Jew $75 for the church. No. You're paying me because this is a profession of mine. This is what I do, right? So it just happens to be based upon spiritual principles, but I got the facts and the case studies to bag it up. And the testimonials that come in by the droves every year, right? So we have to learn how to, but how? Because, see, people just say, just pray. See, what is prayer? This is why a lot of people's prayers not getting answered, because they're reading it from a book and they're not studying it to the next step that they need to study it to get a result. And so the preacher tells them, just wait for it in the afterlife. See, that's his out, right? If all else fails, tell them they're getting in the afterlife. We don't do that over here, right? So let's look at this. Let's look at Jeremiah 18:3. Let's really look at this. Then I went down to the potter's house, and there he was, making something at the wheel. Now, what you're looking at here is the New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible. I have one of these in my home. Great tool to have if you're really serious about this thing. You're going to need to be able to translate some language here because this is where the mystery is getting lost. This is where the juice and the sauce is getting mixed up, and people are not really understanding what they're reading and what's going on here. So you read this and you think, oh, this guy named Jeremiah went down to some potter's house. Nope. Again, allegories and stories. So Yetzer is the Hebrew word for potter in this verse. But guess what Yetzer means? Imagination, mind at work, to form. Not a potter sitting somewhere working with his hands, but you get the allegory and the simile that or the metaphor that they're making here to try to get you to understand, because a potter does what? He's able to reshape things. If something goes wrong, he can reformat it and make it into another vessel. This is the power of the imagination. You can shape and form anything in your mind's eye. Literally, this is the translation of Yetzer, potter, imagination, mind at work, to form. Go get you a Strong's Concordance and look it up yourself. Right? Now, this is what prompted me to write my second book. I co-authored another book with my partner, Spiritual Wisdom for the 21st Century. That's on Amazon. And then I ventured off and wrote a piece by myself called Imagination at Work. That's also on Amazon, where I get into these principles and some of the work that I've uncovered over the years, and I put it into a book so that it can at least open people's mind and welcome them to receive the information to be able to think about utilizing it and processing it with some of the facts that are in the book. But I named the book Imagination at Work because I know Yetzer means literally imagination, mind at work. So I named the book Imagination at Work. That's the secret behind that for those who may not know. Right? So you can get that on Amazon as well. So now, let's read this. This is Genesis 11:6. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they began to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. See, it's all through the book. It's everywhere. If your eyes are open to the principle, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Can't miss it. They're trying to tell you how to activate the quantum field through mentalism, through the mind, through pictures. Okay? Now, let's look at some case studies, Joe, because I don't want to just give you guys no fluff. Right? This is Matthew 18:19. I also tell you this. If two of you agree here on earth concerning anything you ask, my Father in heaven will do it for you. Well, who is the Father in heaven? The Father in heaven is where? It's in your skull. This is why they say that Christ was buried in the land of Golgotha. But the Golgotha, when you translate the word Golgotha, it means the place of the skull, the cranium, the brain. They were literally trying to tell you through story form that the Christ consciousness is in your brain. This is why Paul tells you in Corinthians, do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you, not around you, not by you, not above you, not in the sky somewhere? And then the Christ himself says straightforward, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So what the hell are we doing looking outside of ourselves? Huh? It's not on the outside. It's on the inside, but we have to find out where. So I also tell you this. If two of you agree here on earth concerning anything you ask, my Father in heaven will do. So if we understand now that Christ is buried in Golgotha, then we know that the heaven is upstairs, right? Connected to the heart as well via the vagus nerve. You got 40,000 neurons in your heart that are sending signals to the brain, because manifestation is a two-pronged, two-step. It's mind power and emotional strength, right? So let's read this. In one study, two people were hooked up to an EEG machine in separate locations. One subject was told to visualize touching the other subject's hand. When they performed this act, the EEG or brain waves of the other person responded as though they were physically being touched. Now, I want y'all to understand something here. We'll just make it plain. Minister Jews in Chicago. Somebody on this line may be all the way in Texas. They got an EEG hooked up to me here. They got an EEG hooked up to that person down in Texas. I imagine touching the hand of the person in Texas, and at the time that I'm imagining touching the person's hand in Texas, the EEG machine of the person who is hooked up in Texas, their brain responds as if they just got physically touched by me in real time. Huh? S.A. Koran, E.W. saying, enhanced power within specific band of theta activity in one person while another receives circumcerebral magnetic fields. This was in Perceptual and Motor Skills, December of 2003, for those of you who like receipts. I'm really to the point where I'm past the receipt, but I always have to put these in here for the skeptical people that may be here listening because, science. So I'm going to give it to you, right? And I got literally hundreds of these, right? So what is going on here? Huh? How is it that the visual power in my mind, somebody else is picking up on a signal that I'm sending just because I'm visualizing touching this person thousands of miles away, and their brain is responding as if they physically got touched. Why? Because when you study these brain scans, you find out that the brain can't tell the difference between what's imagined versus what's real. That's another neurological fact. I spend a lot of time and effort studying this thing to know, right? Now, let's read this. This is because don't talk about prosperity, but I'm not going to let the preachers off the hook. I'm going to get to them in a minute, but I'm going to speak it from the level that I understand it at because they're not totally without blemish, and we're going to get to that. But let's read, because everybody's talking about prosperity in the Bible. We clearly see that it is, multiple places, right? But let's read this. Poverty remains one of the most pressing problems facing the world. The mechanisms through which poverty arises and perpetuates itself, however, are not well understood. Here, we examine the evidence for the hypothesis that poverty may have particular psychological consequences that can lead to economic behaviors that make it difficult to escape poverty. So what are they saying? There's some type of psychological consequence to consistently harping on poverty. It's going to do what? It's going to keep you in an impoverished state. The evidence indicates that poverty causes stress and negative affective states, which in turn may lead to short-sighted and risk-averse decision-making, possibly by limiting attention and favoring habitual behaviors at the expense of goal-directed ones. Together, these relationships may constitute a feedback loop that contributes to the perpetuation of poverty. We conclude by pointing towards specific gaps in our knowledge and outlining poverty alleviation programs that this mechanism suggests. Right? So listen, let me tell y'all something. I'm going to give you the neuroscience behind this statement. And it's in the scripture too. And first I'm going to give it to you in scripture. What does it say? The people who lack vision, right? People are perished who lack a sense of vision. That's in scripture. So a vision, an image, right, of where they want to go. Now let me give you the neuroscience behind it. Speech and mind correlate with one another perfectly. I think I'm gonna do this on my first call next month with my members to show them this science. The mind is organized in a way to think in pictures. Speech came along later. And so they tell you that any goal that you have, whenever you see it in picture form, it feels closer to manifesting. That's a neurological fact. The affirmations and the I am statements, those are it's language, and so the mind perceives that as if it's something that's a little bit more far off. That's how the brain interprets language versus images. So really, what we do is we merge the two. We merge language and image. right? But anyways, let me get to the neuroscience of this particular portion of the presentation. Whenever you have an image in your mind, right, because the image-making device subjectively is the hippocampus, specifically the one in the right hemisphere of the brain. What happens is this. The moment that you have an image in your mind, you cut on the reticular activating system in the brain. This is like the GPS in your car or on your phone. It tells you to go in this direction. You literally have that in your own skull. You have a navigation device in your brain. I'm not making this up. RAS, reticular activating system. Don't believe me, go look it up, research it yourself, right? But when you do that, you know what you do? You activate planning centers in the frontal lobes. Images activate the planning centers in your CEO executive portion of your brain called the frontal lobes. So when a person is not or doesn't have a goal, because remember what it said about goal, right? Possibly by limiting attention and favoring habitual behaviors at the expense of goal-directed ones. So people fall into these habits and patterns of behavior of poverty, lack, suggesting that they're not going to be SHIT, et cetera, instead of focusing their attention on how can I hit my target or my goal to get me out of this particular situation. You get into what they call a feedback loop. So because you're not having a vision, like the scripture says, you're not activating your planning brain, which is going to start to give you suggestions on what you need to do next to make the goal materialize. That's the secret, ladies and gentlemen. That's the secret. That's the secret. So let's read this. And just read this and ask yourself, are you being honest? And we're not going to be here long, because I got something special for those that's here tonight. I hope everybody here comes on over and participates at midnight. We're going to get into something real special. So let's read this. This was in the Consulting Psychology Journal, right? Money, ambivalence, right? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And cognitive dissonance, right? Research I published with Sonia Britt in the November 2012 issue of the journal, How Clients' Money Scripts Predict Their Financial Behavior, showed that individuals who endorse anti-wealth beliefs, watch this, such as rich people are greedy or money corrupts, are also significantly more likely to hold money worship scripts. Now look at this, such as you can never have enough money and more money will make you happier. These beliefs appear to stand in a stark contrast to one another. So in other words, what they're saying is people who are anti-money, money corrupts, rich people are greedy, these same people running money scripts in their mind about you can never have too much money and money will make you happy. These same people holding these two different beliefs at the same time. These beliefs appear to stand in a stark contrast to one another. How can someone hate rich people and at the same time want to become rich? Make it make sense to me, Jew. Simultaneously, loving and hating a person, place, or thing is defined as ambivalence, ambivalent. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, excuse me. We refer to having contradictory beliefs around money as money ambivalence. This is a word to pronounce. But being pulled in two different directions can create intense psychological discomfort. To ease this discomfort, we are inclined to pick the more convenient side of the argument and then reinforce our beliefs in favor and discount evidence to the contrary. Our mental attempts to ease our discomfort are described as cognitive dissonance. It is easier to challenge one's beliefs than to change one's financial status, right? So to alleviate our psychological discomfort, we champion negative beliefs about the wealthy. See how that works? If wealthy people are of a less desirable character, it is easier to feel good about not having one of them. We then go on a confirmatory biased search for information supporting our belief and ignore or discount information to the contrary, which I spoke about earlier. Ultimately, taking a position that disparages those who have more than us can allow us to feel better about ourselves. So we tripping. People tripping. You can't. It's easier to just write it off because you ain't got it, right? But at the same time, saying, man, I wish I had more money, right? It's a contradictory statement that you're running in your mind, right? And so it's easier for you to change your mind about it than for you to actually acquire it. So you go with the aforementioned, right? Because it's just an easier out for you to process the data, right? And then they say envy. Envy is an unpleasant, often painful emotion characterized by feelings of inferiority, hostility, and resentment produced by an awareness of another person or group of persons who enjoy a desired possession, position, attribute, or quality of being. according to the 2007 paper by Richard Smith and Sung Hee Kim, Comprehending Envy, published in the Psychological Bulletin. When we feel envious, we resent that the target of our envy has access to something we don't have access, to something we don't. Our envy intensifies the more closely that desire attribute is connected to our self-worth. At our core, when we feel envy, we feel inferior. Envy is also rooted in a sense of injustice. Not only do we resent the person we envy, we believe that the target of our envy is not deserving of their advantage. Interestingly, our negative feelings tend to grow in intensity when those individuals share one or more of our own attributes. Ain't that something? Look at that psychology. As such, if we are a male financial planner, we are more likely to envy a more successful male financial planner, right? So, people in the same field as you be hating, right? They can't stand it. And if you grew up poor, we are more likely to envy someone who is more successful than us if they also came from a humble beginning. And I see this all the time with celebrities and superstars. People be hating because they know they came from the ghetto just like they did, just like they still in or somewhere close around it. And they be feeling like, damn, they made it. That's what they saying internally on a very, very, very low baseline. And they're covering it up with all of this hyperbole, with all of this conspiracy, all of this stuff that can't be verified or proven in no type of way, right? We give them an out to say, oh, you're there in the Illuminati, some silly stuff like that. The closer the person is to our self-image and the more closely we link what they have to our self-esteem, the worse we feel about ourselves and the more we despise them. So we listen to this. We can't stand ourselves more, and then we turn around and don't like them even more because they're holding the mirror up. So our inconsistencies in our psychology or our inability to come up with a plan, right, and work these principles of mind to get to a higher state of being financially. This is dangerous, people. It's dangerous. So, as I mentioned, I wasn't going to let these preachers and people off the hook because in one breath, the prosperity gospel, it is a true thing. It is a real thing. But they are using people because they're adding what the definition implied earlier, give your money to God via some religious thing, presumably my church, and, you're going to prosper, right? So they're not teaching this level of information. They're preaching, prosperity and, but this is what's happening. Let me tell you what's happening. The ventral medial prefrontal cortex becomes deactivated while in the presence of a charismatic preacher, right? This same structure turns on when a person hears something they believe, whether it's religious or not. This means that it's a difference between faith and belief. Belief is actually more wired to complement our logical approaches based on our previous experiences. Faith is the suspension of logic. These preachers are playing on this neurological aspect and still holding the prosperity gospel out as one in which you have to give money to an external God versus activating the principles from within. This is the gray spot. This is the little dirty thing on these shirts, right? So it's the good shepherd versus the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? This is what's really going on. They got these people in here, and look at this. This structure gets deactivated when they're in the presence of somebody like this, but that same structure comes on when they hear something that they believe. So now what's going on? This would indicate that they really don't believe what they're hearing because that structure becomes deactivated in them when they're around a charismatic person. So it's the complete opposite. Their brain is telling them, no, this person don't have no healing powers. This person, no. But there's something else going on here because these people still believe it or rather have faith in the individual. So at that particular time, something else is going on in their neurological circuitry, which is overriding their ability to spot BS. Now, this can be a good thing if you have a good shepherd. It's called the placebo effect. But that's a whole other thing to go into. I don't want to venture off into that. But you just rolling the dice because you don't know who you got until you figure them out, right? I really can skip over this, but this is just showing the difference between belief in the mind and faith in the mind, right? And here's my membership, y'all. Quantum Scriptures. I got 3 different memberships. I got one Quantum Imaging. That's the premium membership where everybody can participate in all that I got going on. You get to participate in Quantum Scriptures conference calls for free, and my Jew Talks webinar where we get into the dynamic of healing through the mind. That's the premium membership. Then we got Quantum Scriptures. Excuse me. And then we have Jew Talks where we once a month we have webinars on healing and the principles of consciousness that talk about the placebo and some of the case studies where people have healed themselves from creative visualization, meditation, those type of things. And so if you're interested, visit the site, theimaginationguru.com, click on the membership tab, and you'll see some stuff from there. So now what I want to do, because I said I was going to show it, right? I ain't just going to talk it. I'm gonna walk. I'm going to talk, and then I'm going to walk it. I get a pride and a joy out of seeing people succeed from applying these methods. And as a matter of fact, I got a call tonight from a sister out in Nevada. I can't wait for her video testimony. She's going to send it over to me in a couple of days. Matter of fact, I'm just going to keep quiet about it, and I'm going to post it. I'll send it out to you guys. And the same email that y'all got, I'm going to connect the link to that. Y'all can watch her video testimonial of she just hired me to be her personal coach a week ago. Well, maybe not last week, 2 weeks ago. And wait till y'all hear what has already happened to this woman. It's amazing, right? But anyways, so this is somebody said something in the chat. Oh, thank you, NC. Thank you for that. Right? That's Nicole. That's my girl. What up? Skywalker. What's good? So here we are. This is Shonda Oates, right? Right? She says greetings, right? She was in my 28 Days of Gratitude class that just ended at the top of November. I think it ended on November 3rd. She says, greetings. I would first like to say that I'm truly grateful for the work that you do. I appreciate your time and consideration regarding my testimony, in which this is my first time contacting you since our initial conversation when I signed up for the class. I did sign up for an online class that you were teaching about 2 years ago relating to quantum tunneling, in which I received profound results. Getting straight to the point, this last month and a half have literally been a transformative experience in my life. And it was starting with the initial sign up for the class. Her email was so long, I cut it because I shared this on Instagram, and y'all know they ain't going to let you got to be a certain size. So I just cut it right here. Long story short, y'all see the check. Right? I had to scratch out portions of an address because I don't know people all, I don't know. You got crazy people out here. So I had to, anytime I post these testimonials, I mark out the things that, give away the person's full address. But you can see it here. Bam. Check came in the mail. $5,856.48. Booyah. And she had a bunch of other stuff. She sent me a video too, but I like Shonda because this is what her instructions were when she sent me the video. She was like, Jew, don't share the video with nobody except the people in your memberships. She understands the dynamic of keeping things in-house with people who are on the same vibratory rate. So I never shared her video with the public. It was like a 10-minute video going through everything that she experienced. Hold on, y'all. All right, y'all. That was my wife. And I had to give me a hug. So anyways, so yeah. So this was the Shonda. So anyway, she was just like, don't share it with the general public. Just send it to your members. And so that's what I did. I just sent it to my members. So shout out to Shonda Oates for checking in, right? Let me see what we got here, Drew. Go another one. It's Vivian. All right? The testimony. Thank you. Greetings, Minister Jew. If you can remember, I did sign up for the gratitude group until a week after it started. However, you had given me the wishing well and the St. Cajetan visuals. That's for people in the membership that know about those type of things. Wishing well is an older technique. St. Cajetan is relatively new. I wanted to share this with you. I received 2 checks today from my insurance company. I had borrowed money from it about 6 months ago. I didn't know that more cash was on the policies because I haven't even paid back the money that they sent me 6 months ago. I also was approved for a $4,000 loan that I was turned down the first time. Well, I got it last week. Actually, I received it 2 after I joined the gratitude vision. So let me tell y'all how this works, man. See, when you're in the state of gratitude, and they teach you this, when you learn that coherence through the heart, right, actually amplifies your intuitive ability. Listen, what I study is cognitive spirituality. I'm not here for the hocus pocus. I'm going to have to see the case studies. I'm going to read it 2, 3, 4 times before I put my stamp of approval on it, because that's just the way that I'm built and made. But I'm going to tell you how this thing works. The moment you start practicing, right, and you don't let all of the external distractions get within your field of magnetism, all kind of stuff start popping out of nowhere, coming in from out of nowhere. The right people show up. That's just the way that it works. That's just the way that it works. I'm telling y'all, right? So this Vivian, let me see, what's another one, Jew? Here go my man. This I am Will. Look, what's up, bro? My bad. I'm just not seeing his message. Everything is splendid. Thank you. Everything that I learned while being a member still works like a charm. I need to get back in so I can ride this wave some more. I'm not letting up either, right? You see it, Florida lottery, 6,000 racks. I'm telling y'all, this was info at the Imagination Garage because I shared this online too, right? I got a bunch of these, man, checks after checks after checks. So, is the prosperity gospel real? You're damn right it is. But is it a methodology to it? You're damn right it is, right? Do it work itself? No, it doesn't. Do you have to work it to get the results? Yes, you do. And it takes discipline. It takes dedication, right? And it takes a coach. I'm just going to be honest, right? Because I spend my time doing this for real, right? This is what I do. And so, and when you read the case studies, they tell you that coaching is the number one way to get a result, right? Lecturing and reading about it is actually the least way to get it. So what happens is people get all these books on manifesting, right? But they never release the mind power behind it. And that's the key. You can know all about it, but do you release the mind power? Right? You got to release the mind power. You can't just hold on to it. You just like a seed. You want something to grow, you got to drop the seed. You can't walk around holding the seed in your hand talking about I'm growing tomatoes. You got to drop it in the soil, right? So it's the same thing. You can read whatever you want to read. Read. The reading is great because it gives you the information, but the applied information is where the juice at. So you got to release the mind power behind all of that force that you're reading to push it out so that it boomerangs back, right? So tonight, this is what I need everybody to do if you're serious about this, right? It's the holiday season. I usually don't do nothing for $20 anymore because I got a value on what I do. But I was just feeling really good today. You know what I mean? Because I just want to share, really. I really just want to share. But usually I do webinars, $75, $48. That's really my price range for the stuff that I do because I'm confident in what I do and I get results from what I do. So I want to put it at a premium where people respect it. This ain't no hocus pocus, right? So, but tonight I'm going to do a guided visualization tonight at midnight Eastern time, right? So go to the website, theimaginationguru.com, click on the shops tab, scroll down the webinars, and you'll see this right here. Click on it and put it on in your little cart and come on over with me tonight. You charged up off this call in this webinar. You know I ain't lying. Intuitively, you know I'm telling the truth, right? Come on over, step into this vortex of prosperity, and we're going to get lit tonight. And the key is to take this technique with you that I'm going to do tonight. I call this the quantum rosary. Listen, I'm on another level in 2020. I'm taking this thing to another level, and I always knew I would get here. It just took my homie Ampu to push me a little bit more. right, with some changes in approach, right? But quantum rosaries, we getting in tonight. It's going to be the prosperity edition. We're going to keep it on prosperity, but I'm going to have some quantum rosaries for health, quantum rosaries for relationships, and I'm going to get into the neuroscience about it tonight. I'm just not making this up. I'm going to show you how certain scriptures and things that you consider to be holy, when you entrain them in your neurological wiring, actually affect your behavior. I'm going to show the case studies tonight at midnight at the top of the call before we get into it, because people need meaning, they need understanding, because it does more for them when they know what they're doing. So I don't like to lead people blindly. I like people to know exactly what you're doing, why it works, how it works, because that adds to the mix of your result. So go to the website, theimaginationguru.com, click on the shops tab, scroll down the webinars. I'll have your email from there, and you'll get a link about 15 minutes before presentation time. All right? So, again, it's going to be at 12 o'clock midnight Eastern time. I want everybody on this call, right? Because you'll be amazed at the things that happen to you in a short period of time when we get a group resonance going. That's another key, right? So go over to the site, purchase it, and do yourself a favor, because I'm telling you, take this principle with you. You can practice this thing every night and watch how your life changes. And make sure that you send me the testimonials when you do, because I want to blast it out to the world to let everybody know that this is the next wave of consciousness that we've been waiting on as humanity, and science is now verifying it through all of these quantum physics studies, et cetera, so much to the point where Albert Einstein had to call it spooky. He didn't even want to, he said, man, this is not normal. This is going against Newtonian physics. How can you have two things separated by millions of miles and they're responding to each other faster than the speed of light? He called it spooky action at a distance. It was in a physical magazine, him and his partner Podolsky, who had that commentary, even though the mathematics kept checking out right. Then Bell actually produced a experiment, because it was just a thought experiment. Then Bell said, well, how can we put this in the laboratory and prove it? And when Bell put the presentation together, it actually verified the spooky action. And so Einstein had a tough time with it as he went to his grave with it. But, hey, you know, the quantum physics boys told him shut up and calculate, because by that time they started making all these devices based off the quantum laws and the mathematics of quantum physics. It's just the truth, man. I'm just going to give it to y'all in the raw, right? So with that, I'm going to conclude. I'm going to open the lines up. I can take a couple questions and whatnot. If you got any questions or anything you want to add or share. But visit the site, man. Join the memberships. I'm telling you, they load it. I got 15 to 20 different techniques for a range of things. In 2020, I'm going to be dealing with depression, anxiety, toxic relationships. I got it all lined up. I'm just waiting to roll it out at the top of the year. I've been in the laboratory these last 2 months working. So if you want to open up your line, please press *6. That's the command. You can press *6 to unmute your phone, and I'll field any question or any comment that you may want to share with the group here tonight. We got a nice crowd. There's about 50-some people in here at one point. So press *6 to unmute your phone if you got any questions. *6. Or if you got a question, you can write it in the chat. I field a question in the chat. If you're somewhere where you can't speak out loud, I know some of you may be at work or driving. I don't know. People got different stuff going on. But if you want to type it in the chat, you may be sitting at your cubicle at work. I don't know. It's kind of late. But if you are, you can type it there if you got a question. Or just press *6 to unmute your phone. This is Sydney. It's not showing you the cart. Try to refresh your page and go back in there and do it again. Refresh your page, maybe clear your cookies out, and go back and do it again. It should. Somebody, what did they ask me? Will tonight's meditation be recorded? Or what you can do is, but no, he's saying it ain't showing you the cart. But it should, man. You should be able to see it. Maybe you want to do it off the laptop, maybe not on your phone. Maybe if you're trying to do it off your phone, it may be difficult. Mobile app may not be working. You might have to do it off your regular PC or your MacBook Air Pro, whatever you got. You probably be able to get it in there. I'm thinking about recording it tonight. Sometimes I just like to be organic and just go with the flow for the people that's going to be there. You know what I mean? But I probably will record it just to keep it on record as keep it on file that it did happen, just in case something pop up where I had to go back to it for a reference to be able to say, yeah, we did this and yada, yada, yada. It could be stamped. But probably so, Any other questions, please press *6 to unmute your phone. Appreciate you. Speak on the upcoming 3-day resentment and anger workshops you have coming up. Okay, great question. But I think that's going to be on the 26th of December is the date that I set for that. I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to make it real plain. I'm put it this way. I always like to use the science and then not get into the scripture behind it. In quantum physics, they teach us that in empty space or in a vacuum, that magnetism is at its height inside of a vacuum. And a vacuum is what? It's empty. There's nothing in there. But yet, the force of magnetism is strongest inside of a vacuum, right? So now how do we correlate that over into our human psychology? What is this trying to tell us at the very core and nature of our being? Because we are made of atoms, and so we are not exempt. In fact, we are part and parcel to nature, right? So if it's happening on that level, it has to be happening in us because we are quantum physics. We are atoms and molecules, et cetera, et cetera. So what does that mean? In Scripture, what do they tell you? Everybody always say this. When you pray as though you believe you received it, right? But they always leave out the latter part of that. And if there's anybody for you to forgive, right, make sure you forgive your brother, right? That's a key part to that scripture, but nobody ever mentions the latter part of that particular verse. So I'm going to tell y'all what it is. See, you need to clean out your space, ladies and gentlemen. You need to create a vacuum. And if you got all of these emotional load-bearing blockages like resentment and anger, you don't have a vacuum. It's cluttered. It's no space for your law of attraction, right, or magnets, because magnets pull and attract is really what they're talking about here. You're not cleaning out your space to have your magnet work at its highest potential because you got all of this other stuff in your vacuum space. So we're going to unload the resentment. We're going to unload the anger so that when we move into 2020, because see, everybody tells, oh, yeah, new year, new me, and they talking about all the stuff you can add onto you. And do this, add this, and no. Nope, we're going to remove some stuff. That ain't a problem. We got to remove some stuff. And it doesn't mean that, remember, forgiveness is a personal thing internally, right? It's you removing the weight out of your own psychology about the situation. And we're going to get into it because I'm a very practical person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show why we hold on to resentment, right? And in some instances, it's a defense mechanism that's needed. But we're going to talk about it on the 26th, and we're going to differentiate between when we should and when we should not. It's going to be awesome, as it usually is. So for 3 days, we're just going to practice letting go of resentment and anger, and we're going to clean the slate and let the vacuum open wide up so that our magnet can be the strongest. Appreciate the question. Gave me an opportunity to elaborate on it. No problem. Anybody else? Any questions? Remember, go to the site, y'all, theimaginationguru.com. Right? Click on the shops tab, scroll down webinars, put that thing in your cart. Let's rock and roll this evening. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be 2 parts. We'll try to keep it at about an hour. You know what I mean? Maybe somewhere up in there. But yeah, so anybody got any questions, please press *6 to unmute your phone. Matter of fact, let me do this because somebody may be having a problem. Let's see. Okay, so I open up all the lines. I don't know, somebody might have had a problem. Anybody got any questions while we all here on the line together? If not, we're going to end this thing so that I can get prepared for later on in the evening. Anybody on the phone got any questions? Okay. Looks like everybody good. So as usual, man, I want to say thank you. Gratitude is a must and it's first. So I appreciate you guys for coming through, rocking with me this evening. I look forward to seeing all of you guys tonight at the Midnight Visualization, Guided Visualization. And with that, get this information and apply it to your lives, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I got to say. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. If not, just enjoy your family, friends, whatever it is that you do. And I'll catch up with y'all on the next one. Peace.